Oh, I see. Computer screen with Will Allred on it. It must be Friday night. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Tonight was my brother's 50th birthday celebration, so we went over to it's like everybody's loves Raymond. He lives here, and my parents live here, and so we drove over, grilled up some steaks, and we held his new chickens for his 50th birthday. He wanted a chicken coop. So he has baby chicks that are like this big, and I'm not wearing the same shorts because one pooped on me twice. So it's good luck to get pooped on by a bird, right?
Twice even. It's like extra, right?
So it's going to be a great show because I'm so lucky, and it's going to be a great show because I have never met him in real life, but I have been pals with him on the internet for quite a while. JD Oliva is going to be here to talk about his newest novel series. JD, how are you tonight?
I'm great. I got pooped on by a dog earlier. I'm not sure if that's lucky at all. But
I've never heard that, but let's say it is because
it's just too coincidental not to bring up. I mean, we're talking about poop, and well, here I am. So.
Lindsay and JL are here with the Tracy Queen comic. Has anything pooped on you today?
Nothing's pooped on me today. I'm feeling a little unlucky.
Yeah, I'm feeling kind of left out. I did look out the window and see a robin who was in the act of pooping today. I'm
gonna allow it. Allow it.
All right.
I was about to say the day ain't over yet, but I'm going to allow it. Seeing a robin poop counts. Will, I do not want to hear your story.
You shouldn't, no.
Well, as we usually start, we do a quick elevator pitch of the comic books. But I think, JD, I believe you're the first novel campaign we've done. Will, have we done a novel before?
I don't think so.
All right. If you were at a book convention or if you were at a comic convention and someone was walking past your booth, JD, how would you get them to check out the Wolfstone Saga?
First, I yell at them and see if that worked out. I go, hey! So we'll try it now. I would say, hey, I'd like to read a book. It's about a young girl, basically Katniss Everdeen in the Marvel Universe. That's my quick little. Yeah.
That would get me. You've got two great tastes that taste great together for me. So. Tracy Queen. So you guys can, debate amongst yourselves. Who does have you done comic conventions? And if you do, who does the cold pitch to someone walking by?
So we've done plenty. We haven't done any since, the big C19, but
C19.
I sit there like a terrified clam with my face in my sketchbook, and Lindsay talks to people.
I try. I'm an introvert though, so it doesn't always go so well.
So we kind of just put everything that we have that looks nice out on the table and just like wait for people to just come and start picking. That's like the noodling method of fishing. Where you just pretend your fingers are worms, and like when the catfish comes over, you just grab it. Right?
Hey, whatever works for you is fine with me.
All right, it works.
All right, so I'm going to say the introvert. Get me into Tracy Queen.
Oh, thanks. So Tracy Queen is the story of a young woman who was raised to be the heiress to a crime syndicate. So she was raised sheltered, but also dredged in violence. She knows how to kill somebody with just about anything that she has on hand. But she decides that she wants to break free of that life. She doesn't want to do the violence thing anymore. So she leaves the syndicate. And when she realizes that she now needs to make her own money, she becomes a cam girl, an adult cam girl online, and actually discovers that she loves it. And she's really good at it. And she kind of starts to broaden her horizons by choosing pleasure over violence. Of course, this does not go unnoticed by the powers that be. The syndicate is trying to get her to come back and work for them. And meanwhile, the king of porn, who lives in LA, is trying to get her to come work for him. Because,
Dicky goddamn double finger.
Yeah. He's the worst.
So the worst.
Evil. And naturally, she doesn't want to work for him because she's making plenty of money and doing whatever she wants on her own as an indie content creator. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
And so the story is about her trying to fight back by naturally creating an army of cyborg clones to fight against the army of porn stars that Dickie is raising to bring against her.
With the help of her best friend, who is a raccoon.
Right. So
I mean, guys, it's comics. You can get a little creative. You don't have to stand by the old boring
Really stay in
tropes.
the box.
All right, we're going to get into both of those a lot deeper. I think because we're doing this Friday evening on a day that the comic community lost as towering a comic legend as can exist. You know, you've got your Lees, your Kirby's, your Ditkos, and we're going to get to your Adams really quickly on that list. We got the unfortunate news today that we lost Neil Adams, one of the greatest illustrators in comic history, one of the hardest fighters for creator rights in comic history. And if you did conventions, probably the hardest working pro at a convention that I have ever seen. I can't say he is the hardest. It is, but for me, I have never seen a pro work harder at a convention to be there for fans, to sell his books. I was at, I'm gonna jump in and steal the spotlight first. And I hope everybody, if you want to talk about Neil in your own way, do. And I did hear, we did a little talk that we've got somebody who can speak on him a lot more eloquently and intelligently, because somebody on this panel knows Neil, didn't just meet him like I did. But I met him once at the Greater Philadelphia Comic Con, like 2015, I think. And it was like 8 o'clock. The show had just closed, so nobody was by him. And I kind of walked up and I just introduced myself. And he's like, "I'm Neil Adams." I said, "Yes, sir, I know who you are." And I did say, "Thank you, because I know that you are one of the people that fought for the rights that creators have now, and I know that it cost you." And because, you know, the person who fights for rights is usually the person who doesn't get them and gets labeled a lot of nasty things for asking for or demanding what's right. And what I loved about Neil Adams is he didn't look at me like, "Thank you for saying that." He looked at me like, "You're goddamn right to say that, kid." All right. You know, like it was just like, "Yeah, I did. You're right. And I appreciate you knowing it," you know? So I was like, "All right, Neil." He didn't thank me. He was just like, "Yeah, you're goddamn right. I did. I did fight for everybody, and they're getting it because of me." And you know what? We all know we're not at the peak of that mountain, but if it weren't for people like Neil Adams, we wouldn't even see the mountain in our distance. So if anybody else wants to talk about Neil, please, you know, he deserves it.
One thing I always liked from Neil Adams, I never met the man. I'm not a convention goer myself. I'm super introverted. I'm comfortable here, but not in front of real people. So one thing I picked up is working as a freelancer, because that's my regular job. I do freelance, and it's always hard to know what to value. I'm a videographer, what to value yourself, right? And something I picked up from him was whatever you think you're worth, double it. When someone be like, "Wait, what is it going to cost you?" Just, well, you think, "Well, I'm worth $500. Give me 1,000." Right. And then because you're willing to negotiate down, and he said 90% of the time, most of the time, you're going to wind up how much higher than you thought you were going to get. And that was just the most brilliant thing that someone could say to somebody. It's teaching you how to value what you do more than you value it. Because usually, and in my professional experience, that almost always happens. If you ask for, more than you think you deserve, you're going to get it. Usually they don't even sit there and say, "Well, what about this?" Usually it's just, "Okay, done. No problem." So I think that's a valuable lesson. I think all creators need to learn is to value yourself and your time and your work monetarily. Because I don't think that I know I don't all the time, right? I know I probably have cut way too many deals, but that's the lesson that I think that we all should really take from this, to know your value, and then you're worth twice what you think you are.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Will, you got anything? I mean, I know that you don't know any DC comics, so you probably wouldn't know any of his work.
I mean, he
did
just
some Marvel work.
Yeah, he's such a towering figure. I mean, you look at, reinvigorating Batman, in the 60s, and then, doing something that nobody had ever done before with Denny O'Neil and making comics relevant,
Yeah.
right? And
Another
then,
towering figure I should have mentioned with Lee and Ditko.
and then just Continuity Studios. I mean, there's just we don't have enough time to list everything that he did for the form and for artists and creators in general. I mean, it's too much, and he certainly will be missed.
No. So, JL, I know that you have a shirt that you showed me. Yeah.
Pick myself up a little.
Awesome.
There we go.
I work for Neil fucking Adams. I assume you didn't buy.
All right, good.
Yes,
it's hard
you
to tell
can.
stories about him without that.
I'm assuming you didn't buy that on
I did
TeePublic.
not buy that. This I actually helped design, and we made these for everyone working at Continuity Studios. I worked there with him for over a decade, pretty closely. I had an office with a couch in it, and sometimes he would like just be working like through the night, through the morning. He'd show up at work, he'd start working, and like then he'd like come in the room and sit behind me and be like, show me what you're working on, and I'd be working, and like a few minutes later I'd just hear him like snoring. And he'd like wake up and like get back to work. Like you were saying before how hardworking he was. If there's one thing you could say about that guy, like he had a work ethic, like it was like the Terminator, like that's all he does. That's all he knows. He can't be stopped, But yeah, the shirt, I work for Neil fucking Adams. The joke came because like, we're just sitting in one of the meeting rooms, and Neil got a phone call. It was with a client, and the client was trying to push for something that would have like, it would have just been tough on all of us. And I hear Neil arguing. I can't hear what the client's saying because he's on the phone, and I just hear Neil go, "Because I'm Neil fucking Adams, that's why." And then he's like, "We're doing it." We just like did it this way, and all got paid. It was great, and but like that, I'm Neil fucking Adams. Like he wasn't Neil Adams. He is Neil fucking Adams. And that's just integral to anyone's story about who he is. Love him or hate him, or be terrified of him, or be completely enamored of him. Either way, he's Neil fucking Adams, and his ego walked in the room, and everyone else just kind of shrank a little, and then he'd turn and walk in the room, and he'd be like, but he also had a real warmth. And I'm reminded of this line from like Gangs of New York, where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is talking about, what does he say? He's like, the funny thing about being took under the wing of a dragon, you never realize how warm it's gonna be, and he was a dragon. He was a dragon of a person. He was freaking scary and powerful and terrifying. But if you were under his wing, you were safe. He did what he could to keep his people safe. And I just remember one time talking to him. He was going from convention to convention to convention. I mean,
In his
70s. And like he was doing sometimes 2 conventions a week, like I would not survive that, and here he is in his like 70s doing this. I'm like, Neil, how are you doing this? And he's like, you wouldn't believe how many mouths I have to feed, And it wasn't like just like his immediate family he was talking about. He was talking about not just his employees, but also freelancers and other people who were doing work based on his work, like subsequent works, things like that. Like he realized that he was, holding up the tent, so to speak, for a lot of people, like you talk about like the umbrella, his was a pavilion, like
in the obituary I read, and then in Bill Sienkiewicz's tweet, the word father and dad came up over and over and over again from people who weren't his biological children. I think Bill I can't quote it, but I think Bill Sienkiewicz said that I lost my art dad today. And that's Bill fucking Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just an 80-year-old man lived an incredibly full life and was a towering success at it. So all I can wish for is to have, I kind of want to live to the 80, but I can only ask for 5% of the success that he had. And if I have it, I'm going to just be resting in peace. But,
the word towering keeps coming up. Like, you've said it a few times and I've seen it on the internet today. And like, that's true too. He was a really big guy. But also I was just going to add that, I met him a few times through JL, but we weren't close or anything. But the first time that I did meet him, I came into continuity to meet JL. We were going to go to dinner or something after work. And he kind of had me go through the whole studio and meet everybody. And by the time we got to like the back corner room where Neil was drawing something, I was so nervous. It literally felt like meeting your partner's dad for the first time. Like, I definitely got that feeling. He definitely appraised me, and he seemed to approve, but I was very meek because I knew so much about him already, and I had heard the stories, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope he likes me.
And I think most of us heard the stories too from a corporation that didn't want to give all of the creators the things that they had to give. So I do get the sense that a lot of it is overblown because he just asked for, or not asked. I mean, Neil demanded what was right. And I keep thinking of like Alan Moore and Neil Adams, the people who didn't do Marvel and DC as long as many others because they called them out on their bullshit. And I think of, Bill Sienkiewicz got to work with Marvel for a long time because of what his art dad fought for. And Neil Gaiman is still coming back and doing stuff with DC because who his writer dad fought and said, this is bullshit, I'm out. So I think Alan Moore's doing fine. I'm not too worried about him making his mortgage payment. And I would probably the same for Neil. I'm hearing he's got a lot of mouths to feed, but what he did for the next generations is, I think that's where he gets his bad rap, but he did have a presence of, I'm Neil fucking Adams, and goddamn right it was.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm having a sip for Neil.
Yep.
Cheers, sir. Now, let's talk about one of his art children.
Yeah.
Tracy Queen. Let's get into that now. If you are watching this live, it is 11:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so the kitty should be in bed. This is not safe for work stuff, but it is Kickstarter page, so there's not going to be anything.
We kept our page very safe for work, and our presentation is very safe for work. It's just if you actually buy the book, there's really only a couple pages in there that have any explicit material on them.
Wow, is it explicit?
Hey, I'm fine with explicit. I just and some of this is gonna be a podcast, so we're just gonna say there's a hot girl. So I did cheat. I saw you on a podcast with Will before. Can you, Lindsay, can you tell us about your experience that led to kind of the not safe for work aspect of the story? Because I thought it was interesting that we're going to get somebody who has, intimate knowledge of people who have worked in this industry.
Yeah. So actually, for most of the time that JL was working at Continuity Studios with Neil, sorry, I was working various day jobs, and at night I was writing journalism about the adult entertainment industry, the porn industry. which I fell into kind of haphazardly. I needed a job in the late aughts, and the first thing that fell into my lap was a gig doing DVD reviews for an adult entertainment magazine. So I was I was meeting up with my editor, sometimes at the office, sometimes like in a park in very weird circumstances, and he would hand me like a black plastic bag that had a whole bunch of pornos in it. And then I would take them home and I would watch them, and I would write up, 500 to 1,000 word reviews of what was in them. And it was a lot. It was a lot of porn. And I needed the money. And I wasn't really sure how I felt about everything that I was doing. So I got curious, and I basically just started saying to myself, like, who are the people that I'm watching? Who are the people who are making this stuff? How does this all work? What's the larger picture? So I wrote a column for McSweeney's Internet Tendency in like 2008 or 2009 called The Conflicted Existence of the Female Porn Writer, where I kind of just every week or every month, I don't remember, I would write an article that was just like, what about this weird thing that I keep seeing in movies? What's that all about? And that got a lot of attention. And I started to realize that people had the same questions that I did, but nobody was really putting them out there. So I started an online magazine where I interviewed porn stars, and I did reviews, and I wrote op-eds about the industry. And before you knew it, I was really deep into this, and I was, interviewing a new porn star every week and going to conventions and really getting to know the business and getting to know the people. So that was my background. I did that for over a decade. I wrote a memoir about my experiences, and Tracy Queen is kind of the end result of all of that. She's a person who decides that she wants to go into making porn, and she really finds herself that way. Because I think it's important that people know that this industry is not all about exploitation and harming people. There are a lot of people that do this kind of work that really love it, and Tracy is one of them. And her story is wildly over the top. And it's a fun sort of roller coaster ride. So I hope that it's sort of an invitation for anyone who is into wild sci-fi stories to enjoy the ride, but also be introduced to the idea that, this character is doing all of these things on her own terms. And that was kind of what I took away from my experience writing about porn.
Which one of you came to the other one saying, Lindsay, did you come to jail saying, I have this idea, let's work on it? Or did you say, I want to draw something for you, let's work on it? How did that synthesize?
So actually, when Lindsay and I were first getting to know each other, I had a comic that I was illustrating and sort of writing as I went. Like, I had a loose concept for a comic, and I was telling Lindsay about it, and she was like, oh, I also have a comic that I'm writing. And so we were talking about it, and she was telling me about Tracy Queen, and I was telling her about Pac. And, that's where the bargain was struck. I was like, hey, Pac needs a writer. And she was like, Tracy Queen needs an illustrator. And I was like, I'd rather not write these, I'd rather focus on illustrating. I had no idea how much work illustrating a comic was at the time. I had only done small projects of my own, and mostly single image illustrations, not sequential art. But I also had a background in animation, and I was doing animation for Neil Adams. So I knew how much work I could do. I knew that there was, pretty much no limit to it. But the finesse of writing was a little bit lost on me. And I had some experiences working for people that were great illustrators, but maybe could have used a writer or an editor and didn't. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to just stick to the illustrating that I'm good at and have someone else write. And Lindsay is such a good writer. And I had read so many short stories of hers and novellas and articles and blog posts. It was just awesome. It was kismet. as they say. And Lindsay is queen. Joey,
Joey.
jail is king. Awesome. You're awesome, Joey. You know, and I actually remember I was working on Blood with Neil Adams. That was one of his stories. And, you know, Neil, he looked at me and he was like, you know, there's 2 taboos, blood and sex. We're doing blood, you know? And I was like, okay, I get it. All right, you know, so here we are, you know. We've been working
So
on
you're saying there's no blood in Tracy Queen, or are we saying we're doing them both?
You know, there is, but it's not like the focus. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
There is.
Most of the blood is her trying to get away from having to be involved with blood, but it keeps following her.
Yeah, right.
The whole, you pulled me back in.
Yeah,
Yep.
I try to get out.
I told you I'm retired.
Go ahead,
I was
Jay.
saying, I'm curious. Your whole background in porn is super interesting. How did you get influenced to bring like the assassin elements into the story? I mean, that's where I find like, whoa, this is really crazy.
She
at this
killed
point.
A man in El Paso just to watch him die.
I mean, who isn't? But like, how did you get that mixed in? Like, this is where it gets really cool in my mind.
Well, okay, so I can only say a certain amount about this, but there is a person in my life who's very dear to me, who I was very, very close to at that time, whose life was like, she was one of those people who, if she just told you about her day, you would assume that she was lying because it was so wild, but she wasn't lying. It really happened. She was not an assassin. However, there are a lot of elements of the story that are drawn directly from her life. And I just started kind of envisioning her as a comic book character because the stories and the things that were going on in her life were just so amazing. And at the same time, I had all of this influence from my writing about porn kind of like swirling around in my head. And at some point, they just kind of came together. And I saw an opportunity to make a story that kind of pits like violence as entertainment and sex as entertainment against each other, because I find it very strange that in our culture it is considered perfectly acceptable to have a movie or video game where you can in slow motion show somebody getting their head chopped off or their brains blown out, but you can't show a nipple.
Yeah.
This just seems very odd to me. And so I wanted to, I saw these themes coming together in my life and in the way that I was thinking. And I thought that would make a really good story to show somebody who says, I don't care that violence is more acceptable. I don't want to hurt people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather make people feel good.
Yeah, you're exactly right. My daughter's 13 and we've just started opening up R-rated stuff. And, you know, like we showed her the first Terminator because we were like, what are the best R-rated movies that are great? And, you know, the first one was Bruce's, I can say Nakatomi Tower, but somehow Die Hard wasn't coming out. Explain that to me.
True fan.
The movie that takes place at Nakatomi Tower, it was all that was in my head. But so
the Christmas movie, you know.
So I we showed her that, 13 terrorists dead. And, we show her Terminator, rip a heart out. And, and then we're like, well, should we show her stripes? Well, there is that gratuitous shower scene. And it's like, you're going through your head, like, what are we talking about? He ripped the guy's heart out. And as a parent, I'm going through that right now as we're trying to figure out what, but tomorrow in the daylight, we're going to show our Alien. So that's apropos of nothing, but I'm really excited to see what she does with that.
No, it is because it's a strong female character in Alien.
Yeah.
Very important.
Oh, she is going to love Ripley.
Terminator 2 also.
Already did it. Already did Terminator 2, yes.
No, Kevin, you're right. I have a 6-year-old and he's super into like monsters and stuff like that. And like he's been talking about the Kraken. I think he saw it in a YouTube video. So we had to watch Clash of the Titans the other day. Oh. So we sat and watched Clash of the Titans, the original, and I forgot there was a nude scene in it. Like, it's just very quick. And he laughed. He's 6. He's like, she's naked. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I went, and I just kind of went, oh man, that's crazy. And then I'm like, wait a minute, Medusa's going to get her head chopped off in like 30 minutes.
Scorpions grow out of blood.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I sat there thinking about it. It's like, why did it bother me more that he got to see a girl naked for a second than we're going to watch this lunatic violence? Like, it just, you're so right about how weirdly programmed our cultural mores are.
No. So I appreciate what you guys are doing with this book for that very reason. Because I mean, even trying to fight it and trying to be on that side, you can't help these voices in your head going, I don't know.
It goes deep. It's like programmed in there.
Yeah, the shame monster just like keeps welling up over and over again in the process of making this. Like every time that we do a Tracy Queen campaign, this is our third. I have to like fight down the demons a little bit because I really believe, like, excuse me, I need to step up onto my soapbox. I really believe that this is important. Like I think it's important that culturally we learn how to talk about sexuality with a little bit less fear. Because I do think that the less we talk about it, the harder it is for people to understand and the easier it is for bad things to happen to people. Yeah. I strongly believe this. I have spent a lot of time thinking about it because I've written about this stuff for a really long time. And I've talked to a lot of people about it. So I feel like I have a little bit of an expertise in this area. Yeah. But I think that this is an important topic. So I keep putting the work out there. But that like I said, that shame that's been instilled in all of us goes really deep, and it does come up. It's come up over and over again, I think, for both of us. I hope you don't mind if I say that, but it is hard to know that I'm putting something out into the world that is gonna be seen as taboo and scary. And I don't want it to be. I want it to be fun, but here we are.
Well, you know what? We were talking about how Neil Adams fought the fight so that the next generation just got the stuff. You do this book, you get it out there, and then maybe, when my daughter's writing comics or JD's son is writing or drawing comics, maybe it's not as big of a deal because some people like you have put it out there. So I'm all for it. Like I'm kind of on the, as long as something's consensual and it doesn't mess with age limits, and no one's being like hurt in a way that they're not cool with.
I mean, I think consent sums that all up, right? Because like if you're not of age, it's not consent.
Correct.
Exactly.
So I mean, and if you're being hurt in a way you're not cool with, that's not consent. So it's like consent is everything. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah, we were watching Big Mouth, and it's really funny that the Jason Mantzoukas character always asks for consent before a kiss. And I just turned to my wife, and I'm like, he's really, really strong on that, because he's the dumbest character. But do I have your consent to kiss you in front of everyone? Yes, you do. All right.
I love that show. Like, kind of to an unreasonable degree. And Jail sometimes is like, oh God, this is a lot. I'm like, it's so good.
It's a lot. It is a lot. But
it's
so
meant
much
to
heart
be. I mean,
behind
it's meant to make you think about things, right?
Yeah.
And it's also like meant to make you squirm.
It's also, there's a little bit of like shock value to the humor.
A little?
Yeah. Joe, you think I still fit in this shirt? I'm like trying to take shallow breaths right now.
So, all right. Well, Tracy Queen, we will get back to in a little bit, but I do want to talk about JD's trilogy of novels before we get too late. JD, I'm going to pull up the page. This is not your first novel. So when we first met, you were doing a comic, and you have kind of, what was the reason to go from writing comics as kind of the lead in to doing your novels?
Well, now for something completely different.
Yes.
So I wanted to write comics forever. I did a Kickstarter back in 2011, and I did everything wrong and somehow managed to make it work. Like we did it backwards. Like, it was fun to the project, and, we got money, and then the guy went and drew it, and it took 3 years. So, it talk about a total derailment of anything you want to do as far as a career. So I just needed something to do. And I wrote a book in the meantime, and
Okay.
it wasn't very good, but it just sat on my computer. I didn't know what to do with it. I just kind of did it just to do it. And then in 2014, I was this was it had worked. My first comic had come out and got a little bit of attention, and I was shopping around the next one, and I had it with a friend of mine. We were going to have this horror novel or this horror comic come out, and we did get an offer from a small studio, and the guy died. So it was just, I had this story and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Like I was really kind of going through like almost like a survivor's guilt kind of thing.
Right.
And it didn't feel right to have somebody else pick up his work. Right. So I decided I was just going to write a book. I was just going to take the whole story and write it as a novel. And that way we would kind of avoid any sticky situations too, as far as like who owns what. And like, it was my story, but I took his ideas and, was using them too. So I wrote this novel, and again, I didn't know what to do with it. And then when I got back into comics, and we met through Tyler James and Comics Launch and all that stuff, and I launched my first comic series again, and this is what I was going to do, and the same thing happened again. Like it just, I did it backwards because I'm an idiot. And I had time again, and then I met Russell Nolte, who does comics and he writes books, and I was listening to him, and I'm like, well, this guy does both. Why can't I do both? I got these books. So I spent a couple months tweaking them and redoing it. And I found out that I'm a lot better at this. Like I'm a lot better kind of, I am a meathead jock and wrestler brains. So, I tend to work better solo, and I just went ahead and did this. I wasn't planning on making this my thing. And I just kind of did. And I've been doing, the Amazon writer thing for a few years. And, now that I did a couple Kickstarters, and I found that I'm having more success on Kickstarter than I have there. And, again, being kind of mentored by Russell, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to launch all my books on Kickstarter now, because I just have more control over things. It's more fun. I can make it an event. It gives me a bigger reason to come out and talk to people like you. I've done a bunch of these interviews now with different podcasts, and I just love coming on and talking about my work and what we're doing. And so it's just a lot of fun to focus on novels. I mean, I did an anthology with Russell that came out. It was a Cthulhu's Hard to Spell Battle Royal. So I had a short story that appeared in there. So I'm still going to do some comic stuff when it comes up, but this is my focus, man. I really enjoy writing novels. I think I'm better at it, and it's fun for me. This is a little bit more freeing, I think.
And you can get either one of these books or all three in this?
You can get one of them, or you can get all three of them. You can get the prequel book for $1 if you just want to give it a shot. You can get I've been taking my whole catalog is off of Amazon right now, and it's all available here in Kickstarter. Trying to do some exclusivity stuff. So I mean, like if you want to try something, it's pretty much all right there for the taking. We just hit our first stretch goal to get the audiobook funded. I haven't even updated the page yet because it happened like 15 minutes before I came on the show. So I need to update the page and make that official. Man, it's all there and live right now, and it's a lot of fun. Like there's not as big a community for prose writing and fiction writing in the Kickstarter space. Brandon Sanderson really kind of knocked a lot of walls down with that, and so now there's more people involved, and there's more writers that are saying, hey, let's do this, which is great for guys like me because that have been doing this for a while, because now we can get a community. Like that's one thing I missed about the comics thing, is what I learned from Tyler, is you get this whole big community of people that everybody wants to help everybody, and there isn't a lot of that right now in the fiction space. It's starting to grow, which is cool, but it's still not quite there yet. So again, I like to think I'm playing a small role in trying to like cast a wide net and go, no, here, come on, this is a cool place to launch a book and to get to know people and to show people. I put together a bundle with 40 other writers. We did a giveaway, and I had to go through BookFunnel to do it, but I had some people willing to agree to do it with me. So it was cool. And Russell just put together this similar kind of a group for prose writers. And I'm going to do another one where another bunch of books for people who back the campaign there. It's Kickstarter, man. It's fun to give away free stuff.
Well, I wanted you to know Brandon Sanderson did reach out to be on the show, and we told him no, that you were going to be our first novelist.
Oh God, his fans will kill me. Please don't say that.
Yeah, we want to make friends with his fans.
Yes, there's so many of them. They're scary. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of people that he brought to the platform,
it's crazy,
that supported other projects. Yeah. It's insane.
Someone pointed out that the number of pledges that didn't go through are more than most campaigns, than like 98% of the campaigns that have ever been on Kickstarter. Just the credit cards that didn't work.
That's fascinating.
That's like still a small number for how well they did.
Yeah, it's nothing, but it might be $100,000.
Yeah, so anybody else
exactly.
would cry if they had those type of numbers. But I mean, like, yeah, he did such an amazing job, and he brought that massive platform he has to Kickstarter, which is great. Now there's going to be so many people who are more willing to check out books that are premiering in Kickstarter, and it's such a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
We actually did our first prose book on Kickstarter right before Sanderson, and so
right before.
we didn't get to see any of that awesome
you missed the Sanderson wave.
bloom of the prose kind of category.
The Sanderson effect.
Yeah, the Sanderson effect that we're calling it. But we're gonna keep going with our prose series, so we'll have more of that.
Yeah, and one thing that I did notice, just like you were saying, is that there's the publishing space on Kickstarter is not nearly as big as the comics space.
No.
And one thing that we are also part of the comics launch community, and one thing that we've definitely learned from Tyler is like how to put together a really nice, really slick looking Kickstarter page.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if you transfer those skills from comics over into the prose area, you're already blowing away 95% of the
Absolutely.
competition.
Absolutely. There's again, Russell himself is actually he's kind of doing what Tyler did in comics launch. He's doing his own thing now in the prose world, and it's really cool. You know, Dean Wesley Smith has tried some stuff, but again, like when I look at some of the other campaigns, it's like you can just see the difference from people who didn't have the fortune of coming up in a place like comics launch and going in there just kind of blind, because it's tricky, man. It's tricky to know how to navigate Kickstarter.
Yeah. Joey Galvez asked, what can we do as creators in the community to open it up for prose?
I think the best thing to do is just talk about the prose projects that are out there, back them, and then just get the word out. Like, it's grassroots, man. And again, like, I don't know, lucky, but I was in the right place at the right time to kind of get on a Kickstarter when it was fairly new, back in the early, teens. And, again, because I did it wrong, I didn't get to take advantage of it the way everyone else did. But that's how I saw the community really spring up in comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could do the same thing in the prose world if we get the right people involved and you get the people who actually want to help grow, not just jump in, make money, and run away. Right? That's not going to work that way. It's going to happen if more people get in and get get in there and try to do the grassroots thing and try to beat the streets and tell people where they can find these great books. Again, not just mine. There's tons, man. I'm trying to do the right thing and back, same as I do for, the comics world, try to back everything and try to get on everybody's good side and try to just spread the good karma around. Cause I'm a firm believer in this platform and what it can mean for creators in general. Cause I think I drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And let's not pretend, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was quick anecdote. I was just going to say, it is an ecosystem, and like anything else, if you're going to subsist off of that ecosystem, you have to make sure that your footprint is small and that you're giving back, and that you're giving as much, if not more, than you're taking from that ecosystem. But then there are those people with those the mentality is that they're just going to come in, grab what they can, and leave, and don't give anything back. And that's like the equivalent of clear cutting a forest and ditching. You know, it's you just want to give back. It is an ecosystem.
No, we were actually very much on the same thing. What I wanted to say is let's not pretend that 2011 to 2016, the comics category was dealing with quite a few people who were, launching and then disappearing with money. And, we're still fighting, the only thing on Kickstarter that really is extraordinarily difficult to do as a comic creator is to get retail stores to back your comic, because the people who were open-minded about it in 2011, 2012 backed and they didn't get books.
Yeah.
So we burnt the people who were open, and the people who were closed laughed at them. And so we're trying to get stores to trust us again. But I do think most of the people that came in and clear cut the forest, there are many fewer of them on Kickstarter now than there were when I started in 2014. But I have to say, getting your book out in 3 years, you say it was a nightmare and tough, but if you did that, I have so much respect for you.
Thanks.
To get it done, even though it was hard. So that, that's great.
Well, it's like I said, it was out of my control. I have zero talent when it comes to art. So, I hired a guy that was great. I trusted him. He did good. He did a great job. But more important people than me came along. And I can't tell someone that they can't make more money. Right. So, and I'm said, you know what? Okay, I'm willing to go back to the back of the line for Grant Morrison. So, I mean, like, that's okay. I accept that. And it's cool. We're still friends. He does great work for me. And it just took a while. That's
I
all right.
believe I've heard they prefer to be called Grant fucking Morrison.
Yeah.
Grant fucking Morrison. I like it. It's a great middle name. I might name my next child that.
Derivative, just saying.
Well,
Don't be mad at me, Grant Morrison.
Yeah, Grant is not very derivative, so I'm certain there will be something else created. No, so when Joey also put writing is hard.
Not as hard as the art, though, Joey. Not as hard as the art.
I don't know. I can't draw, so I can't say it. But the sitting down on page one of what will be a 378-page novel is extraordinary to me. How do you stick with the process?
So I'm super disciplined and super regimented just in like my regular life. Like I mentioned before, I was a pretty high level athlete. So I mean, like everything has to have its like space, and that's just how I live. So I've got it down where I can write 1,000 words in about 40 minutes. So that's what I do is I chunk out 4 30-minute chunks a day minimum, when I'm in the process of writing a book, and 40 minutes, boom, I get 1,000 words down, and then, I walk around and do whatever, maybe play on Twitter for a little while. And then I do my next 40-minute chunk, and that's pretty much how it goes. And, you get 3,000 words a day. And after about a month, you get about, 90,000 words if you stick with it every day. Right. And there's life comes up. So it's about 60,
Yeah.
But then some days you get 5,000 words down. Some days you get 2. It just depends.
Right.
I go into some of these writing groups, and there's like, I talked to this one woman, she's a machine. She's like, oh yeah, I can knock out 26,000 words in a day. And I just throw my thoughts and I'm like, I suck. I can't do anything. I'm terrible.
Her poor hands. That sounds terrible.
What's the thing about, if you're making money on Amazon, it's all about volume, right?
I could not say 26,000 words a day.
I could. I mean, like I babble a lot, and I don't think I could do it. Like,
I mean, do they have to be good words?
Honestly, I'm a
believer
in a garbage first draft, right? So it's just get it out, and then you go back and fix it later. Because I think so many people, when it comes to writing prose, they get obsessed with making sure every word in every chapter is perfect, and they're constantly rewriting themselves as they're going along. So I'm of the mind that I write from because I'm from comics. The outline is tight, right? I know where I'm going. I can't be Stephen King and just like, I'll see where the story takes me. I'm not wired that way. I can't do it. So, I have my roadmap. You can vary, but I'm going to get back on the road eventually. So as long as I know where it's going, I can stay disciplined. And then if something's not working, I can address it when I do the next draft. Go, this is terrible. Could fix this right now. But you don't know it's terrible until you're done. Right. So you just trudge ahead, and then you go back and go, oh, this was not good. Or, hey, maybe this worked better than I thought. But it's just about creating that discipline and, making sure you have that rhythm and routine to do this and this and this and this. Because, I wish that this is all I was doing for a living. But I mean, I do a bunch of other stuff too. And I'm a dad, and, you're busy. So it's all about staying disciplined, staying on top of it. And I'll be honest, man, I finished a book just yesterday, and it's the best, writing the words at the end. Like I get like a super rush out of it, and it's addicting.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
You mentioned, I think, kind of the most important thing when it comes, whether it's novels or whether it's comics, is just finish something. If you're doing comics, finish a 1-page story, and by finish I mean pencils. Write it, pencils, ink, get it published. Take it all the way and something. Because I mean, you're right. That's a rush. I mean, I did that. That's something that was done, right?
And I'm gonna cut in and just in case somebody's starting, and when Will says published can mean going to Kinko's and printing 50 pages of that and mailing them to your friends. That is still a finished comic. It doesn't have to be. The gatekeepers don't have to choose your page and put it in their book for you to be published. And go ahead. I just,
And that's the great thing about Kickstarter is there are no gatekeepers anymore. You know, we can publish what we choose to publish. You know, it can be something about, you know, choosing love over violence. That's kind of sexy. It could be, you know, a time traveling demon hunter, or
But sexy.
but sexy. But I was going to bring up my book, but it's not sexy, so I'm going to shut up now.
Hank and Hector could get it.
So while we were on the show, I heard my dog. I had a puppy, and he's teething. And here's the proof of my book. He was chewing on as I was talking about it. So I figured that was a little appropriate for the moment.
JD, this is free. A $10 add-on. You can get the puppy approved proof.
That's going in the update tomorrow. I love it.
So
kind.
Abstracto Create says that Onishi Press taught me to finish things. So all right. We got people on who are leaders. So I love it.
You know,
Joey Galvez said, with the communities like the Experience and CBSN partnering with creator-owned IP, I think we're moving into a better direction of all of the community, you know, fertilizing the ground for each other. And I agree. It's leaving the space better than it was before you got here, because you want to come back. You know, not for I've said it before, Will's heard it, for the most selfish reason. Make it better than it were, so that you can come back and do better the next time. And then, you know, be nice to everybody else in the community for the most selfish reason possible.
I think the term was greedy giving. Is that somebody came up with that? I can't remember.
Sounds like a real D-bag.
Yeah.
Shadi says the classic puppy attack.
Yes, you're not paying attention to me, so I'm going to make you pay for this. Yes.
You know what JD was saying before about the outline and taking that practice from comics and applying it to the novel. And, you know, as someone like I write and I illustrate, I animate, you know, like storytelling of any kind is something that I want to do. And it's the same process for me. I'm a firm believer in the outline, you know, start with the skeleton, add the sinew, then the muscle, then the skin, right? And like writing is, you know, it's very much same as anything else that you're trying to learn or do or get better at. And I think that just applying that discipline that you're talking about is like, maybe it's not for everyone, you know, like Stephen King is so good at characterization that even if his plot is absolutely terrible, no one's going to care because his characterization is that good.
He'll just use the same plot in the next novel and,
you know,
he'll do
like
better.
outlines and just organization and discipline. It's like so awesome, you know,
Yeah.
and sharing that with other people is also part of giving back to the community.
Yeah.
Sharing how to budget out a Kickstarter so that you don't end up getting $2,000 for a project that's actually going to cost you $10,000, and now you've just screwed all your fans because you can't actually follow through on what you said you were going to do. Right? That's something that by teaching people that stuff, we're actually giving back to the ecosystem just by sharing wisdom, talking about your outlining process, things like that. Like, it's just so awesome to just be able to do things like that.
Just
you know?
hearing you say, like, you go for, you know, 3 30-minute stretches a day got me like pumped, because I can do that too. Like, I know I can do that. And sometimes when I am working on a writing project and, you know, I have that experience of just sitting down and being like, oh God, I can't do this. I better get on Twitter. I better get on Instagram. I better do literally anything but write. But if I do take it in chunks like that, you know, just say, all right, I'm setting a timer and I'm going to just write as hard as I can for a while, you really can knock out quite a bit of work. And if you've got that outline, you just, you know, do the next thing on the list and you get through it. And I haven't been doing a lot of output lately. So hearing you say that really like got me excited. Like, yeah.
She just finished 2 scripts that we just sent out. She's totally
That's awesome.
But she wanted to do 6.
We literally just contracted with someone for one of her scripts today, like earlier today. You know?
They were
was like-
short scripts.
Still, they were awesome scripts.
That's awesome.
You know?
No, it's the best piece of advice I ever was given is just, you know, put yourself on a timer and see how much you could do. And for me, like, my chapters tend to be about 1,000 words, right? So that's nice. It's like I said, Comics Brain, like, a scene is 2 pages, right? The scene for me is about 1,000. My chapter is a scene about 1,000 words. I've got myself programmed to hit it about that. Sometimes I go a little over, sometimes it's a little under, but I mean, like, that's boom, that's that chunk, and then I can screw around, take the dog for a walk, go exercise, do something, then I can come back. And as long as you stay disciplined, I think it's a great way to work. Cause I got like some undiagnosed ADD possibly, where I just cannot sit still for more than a couple hours. Like, it just, I can't do it. I got to just get up and move around. So segmenting things and staying rigid and a little bit more disciplined is really good for me. Helps me stay on top of things. And I find that when I go back and look at it, it's like, it doesn't seem quite so overwhelming. Cause when you start to write a book, it's like, man, I'm gonna write this book. I feel great. Let's do this. And then on day 4, you're like, I have nowhere near close to getting done with this book. It's so overwhelming. And then you go back and I look at the Scrivener of those, and I got all these chapters. I'm like, okay, it's moving. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Don't get overwhelmed. You're fine. It's a nice little way to pep talk yourself. You can look back at what you've done, and it doesn't matter if it's good, because you can always fix it later.
Plus, as far as like brains go, if you have like a manageable goal that you can meet several times several times a day, you get that dopamine hit each time. It's like, yeah, nailed it, and that feels so good.
I did a goal.
Yeah.
Well, and even like with comics, you guys are absolutely right. I have a really, really modest goal of like 4 pages a week of comic script. I have a day job. It really gets into the way of doing the fun stuff. But if I stopped doing it, they'd probably stop paying me, and that wouldn't be good. So
not for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. But 4 pages a week translates to 208 pages of script in a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pages of comics that have just been written, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be 1,000 words, in 30 minutes, or 4 pages of script a week or something. But you're right. If you set that goal and you hit it, you keep doing it, and you'll keep doing it, and you'll keep doing it. And
the rhythm, I think,
awesome.
is the key of it. Whether it's 4 pages a week or 1,000 words in three separate times, so 3,000 words a day. But it's the rhythm. I do a very bad job of being in rhythm. I'll be like, get a comic script out in 2 weeks, and then it'll be 6 weeks later, and I haven't started the next issue. And that's where I find myself getting down on myself, and I've got to build the rhythm for myself, and I'm terrible at it, quite frankly. But all right, I'm gonna writer sprints every day. All right.
Well, one of the tricks that, of course, and I think I learned this from Tyler James, because he's awesome.
Yeah,
That's the guy.
Sending out to your mailing list every week. So I make my mailing list kind of my accountability partner, and I don't want to, hey everyone, no, I sucked this week. I didn't even get anything done because I'm a slacker. I don't want to say that. So it's a way to help motivate me, because I don't want to embarrass myself. So
you screwed up, Will. Now you're going to make Joey make a writing goal now.
That's right. Do it, man. Do it. We need more people writing. We need more people doing art. We need more of all of that stuff.
See, one problem for me is my accountability partner disappeared.
Oh.
So, like,
who accounts for the accountability partner?
Yeah. So
we should write a book about that. No,
no. So I did. We when you were talking about the how you work to the outline, we forgot to ask, how do you guys on Tracy Queen or your other comics, how do you work together? Is it a rigid script that you try to really illustrate? Is it very collaborative? What do you guys, how do you work together?
It's kind of a mix of both. The funny thing is that when I write a script, say I'm excuse me, I'm describing like the setup of a room. I will say, I'll picture that the couch is here and the lamp is here. And then I give the script to JL, and he'll do thumbnails for it, and he will put the couch here and the lamp here. every single time. He takes
It's not like
what's
she
in my head
describes
and
what side
flips
it's
it
on and I
180.
flip it.
No, he just
It's just the way I picture things is the opposite of the way she pictures
without
them.
fail every single time.
So you'll say there's a couch and a lamp, but in your head, the lamp's on the right, and on the
Yeah.
page, it's on the left.
It's always on the left.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. So that actually, like, realizing that, I think, is a good like entry point to how we work together, which is, you know, I write a script. Usually we'll look it over together to make sure that we're both into what's in it. And especially because we've been collaborating on so many of our characters and stories for so long, he'll often have really good input on what I'm doing, or I'll be like, I feel like this script is just kind of dragging. Like, can you think of a way of, like, you know, pepping it up? And he'll often have really good insights and that kind of. So we do some collaboration during the writing process.
And then also during the sketching process, it's the same thing. You know, we'll brainstorm. She'll show me her outline for writing, and I'll throw in any ideas or thoughts that I have. But I'll also show her my thumbnails and my sketches, and same thing. She'll throw any ideas that she has and feedback like that.
Yeah, we're both big outliners, so that works pretty well.
So, Lindsay, how detailed do you get into your scripts when you're describing things, or you just kind of let JL just kind of do his thing, or do you get like because I guess when you guys are so close with what you're doing, like I'm always fascinated when I talk to people who write in comic scripts of how dense do they let their descriptions be?
Well, it does depend on the project and the artist, because sometimes I work with other artists. And also, like, you know, project by project, sometimes I will have a really clear vision of exactly what I'm thinking, and then I might get pretty detailed in the description. But I also, if I'm going to get very detailed in the descriptions, I almost always will provide reference materials of some sort. Like, I'll just do a Google image search and, you know, find some images that suit what I'm thinking about, so that I don't end up going crazy on somebody for not seeing what I'm seeing.
And usually I'd say that's only when it's important to the plot. You know, like if this item has to be here and has to be shaped like this because it's going to come up later, then there's reference and there's a description of it and there's more specifics.
Yeah, or a lot of the time, like, I'll be writing like a short comic in a world that we have already created together, so it's important that things
continuity
look the same.
Yeah.
Without spoilers, what is the weirdest image you would put in a script for an artist? I don't want to spoil like anything in a book, but
you remember how I said before that Tracy Queen can kill people with just about anything that she has on hand. Well, there's a scene in the book where she gets ambushed while she's in a room full of sex toys.
Okay.
So
particular products that
JL really nailed it out of the park with the illustration.
That was probably the funnest thing I've ever drawn. And anytime anyone sees that page that Lindsay's talking about, they always shout out loud. They always go, "Oh my god!" Like every time. It's like,
that's awesome.
It's pretty good.
Abstracto
right. I just
says,
kind of like loosely describe what I think is happening and then threaten the artist if they don't get it right.
Yes.
So there's what we like to call like emergent properties. And when we have a long script like Tracy Queen or Pack, and there are environments that are recurring, you know, we allow there to be emergent properties that then we retain continuity on. So like in this scene, you know, we're showing Tracy Queen's apartment, her living room, as it's getting more, you know, more decorated because she's getting more popular, making more money, buying more things. So any like new thing that we add, it's just like, oh yeah, draw stuff around, you know, showing that she's getting a little bit more opulent. So anything new that I add, I now have to remember and be like, right, the next time I draw something subsequent to this, I have to remember that I added that new piece of art to the wall, or she upgraded her computer system. Okay, from now on, when I draw her computer setup, there needs to be a flat screen instead of an old CRT, you know, like things like that.
Man, that sounds so hard.
It is. It is.
Art is hard.
It's really hard.
JL's brain is kind of made for that stuff,
And
though.
yeah,
He's
my
very
brain is
detail-oriented.
like just attacks the details and obsesses about them. And it's like if I didn't have art, I'd probably drive myself nuts with that, you know. But I have like this awesome thing to channel that kind of detail-oriented obsession into, You know,
And this
so
is
it
why
works.
readers, if a beauty mark is on the wrong side of the face every once in a while, just fucking let it go.
Just
You
let it
know,
go.
like artists
how
are
hard
doing
that
a
is.
lot. Artists
That
are
seems
doing a
oddly
lot.
specific there, Kevin. Do we need to talk about that?
That may have happened in my books, but we decided that it's a magic beauty mark. So
It's a migrational.
Like
yeah,
Robin
yeah.
Hood Men in Tights.
yeah,
You
yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
You
The
know what?
mole.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
mole.
The mole, yeah, I do remember that.
On the
That's
other
right.
side, I have
Yeah.
a mole.
Or like in Young Frankenstein,
The hump,
was
yeah.
there a hump on the other side.
Yeah.
Like,
No, or that Batgirl image that came out about three months ago, maybe, where it was the bathroom and there was a tub and there was what seemed to maybe be a door behind the tub, and people were kind of like, you know, either nicely or not nicely kind of ribbing the artist. And I saw a professional artist go, "Look,
clearly
gotta
you've
do-
never lived in Bushwick, okay?
you never." Clearly, you've never drawn a fucking comic page, you guys. This is difficult. There was probably a deadline. They probably had 3 hours to do this entire page, and they fucking forgot there was a door there. Leave them the fuck alone. And I was like, okay, you know what? I was kind of giggling at the one, kind of like, oh no, that is the answer. Leave them alone. There was a mistake.
We're human.
Everything you're enjoying on this comic is because of the artist. Because guess what? If we didn't have artists, we'd all be saying, JD, can you take my outline and turn it into a novel? Because I'm not disciplined and can't do.
There's good money in ghostwriting. I'm not that guy, but there is.
As far as that goes, though, I actually also do freelance work as a copy editor. So it's literally my job to notice if somebody like puts their keys in their pocket on page 9 and then on page 15 takes their keys out of their purse. It's my job to be like, no, they were in her pocket. We didn't see her remove them from the pocket, so therefore they're still in the pocket.
And God bless you for doing those things, because sometimes you just forget what pocket you had them put it in. You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Right, and when I'm writing, I do that stuff all
Me
the time.
too.
So
Editors and copywriters are invaluable,
Mm-hmm.
invaluable, worth their weight in gold as far as this goes. Because, man, without I make mistakes a lot, and like when you have zero money and you're trying to do my first book, I don't need an editor. I'll be fine. No. If you're listening and thinking of writing a book, you need an editor. You need a copy editor too, because you need someone, you need the last set of eyes to make sure all your mistakes are caught. Because I guarantee you made 30 minimum.
Right.
Well,
Well, it's
what-
wild too.
yeah.
Like I do. So you have your content editor that
Mhm.
does the big stuff. Then you have your copy editor that does the littler stuff, and then the proofreader who does the littler stuff. And sometimes, if there's a lot of that going on for one of the big publishers, then they hire a cold reader, and they basically they'll send me the book and be like, just read it. And if you see things that are just wrong, you're the last line of defense. And I recently got a book. It was a great book. I had so much fun reading it, but I noticed a gaping plot hole that none of those people along the way had yet noticed. And then these things happen. It was a great story. I'm sure that the guy who wrote it was having so much fun writing it, and everybody was enjoying it so much that nobody noticed this one little thing.
You can name it. It was Brandon Sanderson.
No, don't be mad at me.
No, when you're an indie guy, I have an ARC team, like an ARC team, who that's what I have. My last line of defense. I got about 40 people who will read my stuff, and
Wow, that's
their
awesome.
job is to. Yeah, some are better than others. 40 of them get the book. We'll see how many actually got the notes back from. But like, yeah, they're my last line of defense, and I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? And
Right.
most of the time it works out pretty good. Sometimes you'll get a note, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a problem. I have to fix that.
And that's really the advantage of working with like an editorial team, no matter which industry you're in, is that different people notice different things.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of the time writers will come to me and say, I want you to do the editing, the copy editing, the proofreading, everything. And I'm like, it's not a good idea. You want to get different sets of eyes on everything. And I guarantee that the artist who did the bathtub and the door picture You know, if they'd had one more set of eyes on that before they got it out the
Mhm.
door, probably somebody would have noticed.
Yeah.
It's doing a different job too. Like when you're line editing, you're specifically looking for those little things, right? When you're content editing, you got to think big picture. Like you have to be thinking in a completely different headspace to do all that. So they literally are 3 different jobs, and most people don't get that until I didn't for sure until I was going through the fire of it and realized, oh yeah, this is something different that needs help. So that's important stuff.
And the human brain sees what is supposed to be on the page, not what is on the page.
Mhm.
So you can't have someone coming in, changing editor pants and coming back through a book. Because then they're going to be closer to the writer and be seeing what is supposed to be on the page as opposed to what is actually there.
That's why self-editing is impossible. It can't
Exactly.
it can't be done.
Yeah, and I would tell my students, I said, you're going to write some stuff down and you're going to try to look back over it, but you are your own worst editor because you never ever see what's actually on the page. You see what you thought you wrote or what you intended to write, and you're never you have to have another set of eyeballs, and the more eyeballs, the better. You're absolutely right.
Sometimes even just for like social media posts or like, one-off images, I'll be like, Lindsay, help, I need an editor. And Lindsay puts on her little Superman onesie and charges in,
What's trouble about the onesie?
If you saw the typos of my tweets, I need an in-house editor.
Same.
I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky.
And it
If
never
I'm
fails.
sending an email that I'm like, this email is mildly consequential, Lindsay, help.
I'm 99% sure I have never had a tweet retweeted that didn't have a typo.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Every
that's
time I
cool.
tweet something that like people like are into, I look back at it, I'm like, God damn it.
Yep.
What am I doing?
I
So
think that there's
amateur
some
hour.
like Loki style trickster god that rules over social media.
It's Tweetor.
Can you please draw Tweetor?
Tweetor the Magnificent.
It's all yours. You came up with it. You draw it. It's all your creation. But I want
oh, no,
to see
is it Elon
Tweetor.
Musk now?
Oh,
Oh, God.
Elon Musk in a squirrel outfit or something. With like
Get
golden
it on
horns.
the site before he
Yeah, before
owns
he
it,
takes
or
it.
he'll say he owns Tweetor.
Yeah. And then I'm blacklisted forever, and we
Yeah.
don't know why, because I can't tell you.
You're blacklisted because you weren't enough about free speech.
Yeah.
It's a very, very interesting circular logic we've got going on.
Yes, the next few months are going to be a lot of fun on this app.
JD, I don't think did you give like the elevator pitch for your series? I feel like you gave like a comparison.
Just a quick one. I didn't
Would
know
you-
how deep we want to get into it. Like it's, I'll go for it. Like it's about a young, like a teenage girl whose mom passes away from cancer, and she never met her dad, and she got a family heirloom that she puts on for the first time as this little talisman, and she blows a hole through her wall, and she discovers that her father was actually a superhero, which is kind of weird because there's no such thing as superheroes. So this whole thing is a quest to discover more about her family. And it turns out her grandfather was a San Francisco detective in the 1930s, and her great-grandfather was essentially the Lone Ranger. And this whole thing is like a journey of self-discovery that might end in the apocalypse. So it's urban fantasy. It's basically I love comics, and this is my chance to write my dissertation on why I love different eras of comic books, and it comes through in these books.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That
that's
sounds
great.
awesome.
Thank you very much.
I haven't read many novels that are about comics, that work with comic books in the novel, because they always end up being turned into comics. The only one I can even think of is Cassius and Clay from way back when. I don't remember when that came out.
Michael Chabon book, from the early 2000s. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, which
book.
wasn't even, it wasn't a comic book story, but it was a,
Yeah, this is just I love comics, and it's fun to write about your love of something in a different medium completely. So it's I don't beat that over the head in the story, but that's my influences. And if you like comics, you're gonna pick up on it. If not, I'd like to think it's a good story otherwise. So
Nice.
Did I see on your page that there's an audio book?
we just funded it. Yeah, I was just talking to that's our first stretch goal. I just talked to my guy who did my audiobooks for my other ones, and he's good. So we're actually going to try to get 2 different. There's a female voice and a male voice, like basically
wow,
controlling
okay.
stories. So I'm going to try something a little different and have 2 different voices, you know, in the audiobook. We'll see how it works. I don't know if that's really been done in that way, you know, especially in the indie level, but well, what the hell? I got the money now to do it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
awesome. Super
Well,
cool.
we had Madeline Holly Rosing on last
She's
week.
great.
And she did the Boston Metaphysical radio drama. You know, she does the comic. but
Yeah.
She actually hired a cast and did a radio drama, which was really cool.
She went all out. Like she
Cool.
actually put together like you said, an old school like 30s, 40s style radio drama. Is super cool.
Yeah.
I
So
kind of
jealous.
so on my live streams I have a little redeem. Like when I'm on Twitch, if you're in chat, the longer you're in chat, you get, it's like this point system, like fake money that you get for being there and being active in chat. It's to incentivize, you know, interaction, right? So one of my redeems for like a certain amount of Dracoins, they're called, because they're my Draco coins. You know? So you get a certain amount of Dracoins, you can redeem 20s radio guy. And it's like basically for a minute, I just do my spiel where I talk like 20s radio guy about whatever's happening in chat, and you know, it's super high energy, and I'm not going to do it right now because I'll be dead.
Pretty
afterwards.
please.
But I just love that like radio dramatization thing, and I switch my camera over to a sepia mode where there's like rain in it. And,
That's cool.
you
Sometimes he
know,
puts
I
on a
just
hat.
love that. Yeah, 20s radio guy has a hat.
Yeah.
Abstracto is actually illustrating 20s radio guy,
For a comic.
possibly as we speak.
Yeah.
For a comic that we're working on that's coming out pretty soon, and there
If
might
he
be
isn't, will you
a
threaten
radio
him?
show about it. I'm sorry.
If he isn't, will you threaten him?
Oh, that was actually a veiled threat.
Okay.
He gets it.
knows.
He knows. He knows what he's doing or not doing.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, I've now narrated 2 audiobooks
Really?
that I've written, and that is another way to edit. I think that may be the most effective way to edit your own work. Reading it out loud, not necessarily like you want it to not need any editing by the time you do the audiobook, but that experience of reading something aloud, I will always find things that I missed in however many other times I tried to go through and edit something. So anyone out there who's listening, if you don't have the ability to hire an editor at this point, the best thing you can do is read your own work out loud.
Yep, absolutely.
Or even read it out loud before you send it to an editor. This way it's in slightly better shape before they have to burn the whole thing down and start from scratch, you know?
Another trick that I'd have students do is, you know, if you're just doing an essay, it's a paragraph, take every sentence in the paragraph and just make it its own line, because it breaks up that reading experience.
Yeah.
So that you're just focusing on that one sentence.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the reading out loud is the best. I mean, because you're like, oh, wait, I wrote that. Oh, I can't say that.
The thing I always notice when I read aloud is when I'm overusing a word. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
notice it so much on
yeah.
the page, but if I've said the same word 3 times in one page, I know I've got to change that.
And I get a bedtime story out of it. It's great, you know?
I don't like reading aloud because I have a tendency to read what's supposed to be there rather than
I
what's
see.
there. My brain does not cooperate often. So I'm a Scrivener writer. I tend to use the robotic voice when it reads to me.
Oh,
And I hate it, but it gets it. I hate the inflections, but it's so good because I'm terrible at missing like the small words. My 6-year-old calls them popcorn words, like your ons and your ands, and I'm the worst at it. So that's what's really helped me out. And Google just created like these AI like audio things. So I'm going to start. I just actually uploaded my last book that I just finished the other day, and it's going to have a nice voice that will read it back to me. And I'm not going to use it as an audiobook, but I want to use it to help me get better at editing stuff so I can save my editor some time.
They have quite a range too.
They do. I was checking that out. It's really neat.
Yeah.
You don't want to use that TikTok voice?
No, but it's better than listening to the robot, the old school robot reading to me. That
what you mean? JD.
Yeah, that one that makes me hate everything I've ever written. So
I love it. I
but
love that robot voice.
It's super important though. It's great to have those kind of notes because I'm terrible at it. Like I miss the little words constantly.
Isn't it wild how your brain's just like, don't worry, I got you. I'll put that word in whether it's
Yeah.
there or not.
And even when you're writing it, it's like, you don't need that word. You know what you're trying to say. Just skip it.
Yeah.
It's fine. And then you read it out loud and you sound like a complete idiot when you read it back. Like, ugh.
You
My
can do
team isn't
1,100
enough today.
words.
We don't need that A in there.
Cut to
You
the
mentioned
chase.
Scrivener.
Mhm.
So you're a Scrivener user as well?
Yeah, I love Scrivener.
It's amazing, I think, for writing
Yeah.
novels. I've done NaNoWriMo a couple of times.
Me too.
I mean, I
Yeah.
never finish. I make a month and then I'm exhausted and I'm like, I can't do this again. But then, of course, I do it again. But whatever. But Scrivener is just so great at organizing, those big projects, because you
Absolutely.
can outline it with the corkboard feature and all those things. It's wonderful. I haven't been able to make it work like I want it to work for comics, so I still go back to the venerable Microsoft Word, for all of the comic script stuff, and then upload that to Google Docs for editing and the collaborative part of it. But yeah, Scrivener's awesome.
Yeah, what I like about Scrivener a lot is the different folders, because I want to move, like if I want to move a chapter, I just grab a folder and drag it around rather than having to copy paste and move it. It's so much easier, and it's nice to have everything kind of just centrally located in one spot. Or if I want to review like either my character notes, right?
Mhm.
Like, what does this person look like? Click. Oh yeah, okay, good. And it's all just right there, as opposed to being in different places, because I'm not the most organized person in my just day-to-day life. If you can tell from behind me, I've got my gym gear all hung up on my wall and stuff. Like, so having a program that can just kind of help force me along and help me be more disciplined is super, super helpful. Like, and it's I've just been at it so like probably 4 or 5 years now. So it's intuitive, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm a big fan of the program. Highly recommend it.
Does it have any kind of capabilities for like collaborative work?
There
Can
are.
2 people have a document open at the same time? Or?
I believe so. I've never had this issue, but one of the reasons I wanted to get into it is because like it syncs to Dropbox, so it can be accessed at any moment. Like the plan was to be able to get it on my phone, and now it doesn't work with my phone, which is fine. I don't write on my phone anyway. But like that was my idea when I got it at the time. So based on that idea, the fact that it does immediately sync to Dropbox immediately, 2 people could. I don't see why 2 people couldn't be looking at it at the same time. I haven't had a reason to do it, so I think it'll work.
So I think like one of our group projects that we have like several people writing on right now, we use Google Docs because we could both be writing on the same project. 3 people could be writing on the same document at once, and it's automatically saved. Like you don't have to save it, it's just automatically updating to the database.
Thanks, Google.
But like we were, I think maybe like 10, 20 years ago, we were looking at like different things that we could use. This is an ongoing project that we've had for quite a while. And, even like 10 years ago, the options weren't that great. 5 years ago, they still weren't perfect. So now we're using Google Docs, but we're thinking like exactly what you're talking about with like how organized Scrivener is with all the different components and, the modularity of it, right?
Yeah.
That is like, man, we need that, but we need it in a way that like several people can be working on one document at once,
I'm not mature enough to have that responsibility. Will and I, because with this show and some other things, every once in a while we'll have a Google Doc, and every time I see him typing, I'm just like, I'm watching you. Like I can't just let him work.
The cursor on their sentence is like trolling,
Yeah.
It's like, you are a nerd, and then I have to, of course, respond like, that's Dr. Nerd to you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, all right, guys, it's 12:24. You've been on with us for almost an hour and a half. I really appreciate it. I have had a blast and learned. Honestly, every week we will learn a lot, but I think this week was like huge, and I really appreciate all 3 of you. We one more time, I had Lindsay kind of do the elevator pitch. How would you do the elevator pitch in a totally different way?
In a totally different way, I'd probably talk like this. Yeah. So, my thoughts are pretty synced up with Lindsay's about talking about this, so it's difficult. But I would say, you know, first of all, Tracy Queen is gonzo. That's the first thing you need to know. Tracy breaks away from an organized crime syndicate, finds herself alone and hungry, and breaks into adult webcamming to keep the lights on. And you know, everyone just wants a piece of that action. Her past is catching up to her, and she finds herself fighting a war on two fronts, so she does what anyone would do. She gets her best friend, who's a talking raccoon, to help her create an army of cyborg clones to take over the world. No, defend her liberation.
Yes.
And you know, that's basically my quick pitch.
That's awesome. No, I cannot wait to dive into this world. JD, I mean, Katniss Everdeen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is all I needed. But you know, like book 1, 2, 3. God, I might be really putting you in a bind here. What would be the trilogy without spoilers? Can you talk about book 1 to 2 to 3, or is it spoiling to
Book
ask?
1, I can do it. Book 1, the girl, Jennifer Grey Wolf finds this mystical thing that belonged to her dad and her grandfather. It's the family heirloom, and she accidentally raises a superhero, like a Superman type superhero, back from the dead. It's an accident. So she's figuring out life in book 2. That guy dies on page 1. So she needs to figure out her role in the greater scheme of things and figure out kind of where this guy even came from and how not to end the world. Book 3, she meets her grandfather, who's a, how do I put this? Serial killer ghost. And she gets pushed into perhaps maybe she isn't the good guy in this series. Maybe she's the villain, and she has to make a choice on what she wants to do with the rest of it. So without getting super spoilery, because it's a series, it all kind of everything builds off each other. But it's about a kid trying to figure out her role in the greater world, and maybe not liking what destiny has planned for her.
All right. Beautiful.
Thanks.
So this is the point where Will and I warned you before the show. It goes off the rails.
Yeah. Totally.
We're going to talk about the campaigns that from creators who've already been on the show in the past weeks that are still live. We'd love to have you hang with us, but if it's bedtime or dinner time, depending on where you are in the world, we totally understand that too. So, are you hanging with us, or because I don't want to just make you leave without saying goodbye.
I do need to step away for a minute though. I refill my water.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I had to go rehydrate too. That's why I disappeared for a minute.
Right.
That are you telling me something? I think I have to take a dog outside.
Okay.
That sounds like a good reason to say goodbye. We don't want him to. We don't want him to destroy any more proofs.
Yes.
That add-on works once.
He's been going through my trash can during the show. It's a mess behind me, let me tell you. So I'm gonna let you go, Kevin. Will, thank you for having me on. I can't say enough. Thank you, Lindsay. It was fantastic meeting you. Your project is absolutely fascinating to me. I'm gonna back this Kickstarter. It's nothing that I would normally read, but you sold it in such a cool way that I have to read this. So I'm definitely gonna be backing it after the show, guys. It was great talking to you. It's the first time I think I've actually talked to you guys like in person like this. So
yeah,
it's really cool.
Twitter and Facebook friends for a very long time, but the actual you have a voice.
I do have a voice. It's not a great one, but I have one. So thank you guys. I'm coming. I have to go take care of this. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Take it easy.
Well, here we are.
All right. So, we'll put these in order of how they close before the show. Like, oh, god damn. All right, Will.
I'm organized tonight for once.
Normally we talk Kickstarter. This is a crowdfunding campaign that is off of Kickstarter. It's the Dauntless Stories Greenlight strategy, or it's the Greenlight thing that they do. I don't know if they call it
Greenlight Initiative. Is that what it's called?
I like that. If it's not, that's what they should do. Travis B. Hill's the writer, and actually Dauntless Stories, I don't know, publisher, editor, president is the artist on it. It's sort of like if the Power Rangers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were formed, and then 20 years later we get back in the story and they've all gone their separate ways, and forces beyond them bring them back together to kind of get back together and fight the good fight against this great evil. The 8 pages that I got to read were just fun. Just capital PHUN fun, and just cool. And I love Kickstarter, but I also love people trying to, fertilize the crowdfunding pastures outside of Kickstarter. So definitely check out dauntlessstories.com/technonights. And the Knights is KNIGHTS. Real fun book. And Travis was a great dude. These two.
Yeah,
God.
these two again.
Phil Falco and Kat Calamia are back with Slice of Life. It's their webcomic about an anime warrior who is accidentally brought into real life in the bedroom of one of her biggest fans. And she ends up kind of falling in love with her biggest fan's sister. And it's a comedy, a fish out of water comedy.
Slice of life.
Drama. It is a slice of life. It is that too. But Kat and Phil are great, and this is really cool. And you can actually just look up Slice of Life, Kat Calamia and Phil Falco. I think it's on Webtoons, correct?
Mm-hmm. And,
so you could you could read this for free and then back to Kickstarter when you know that it's a book for you.
This is a quick Dauntless Stories Techno Nights book that ends in 2 days, and then Slice of Life ends on the 5th of May. So they've got about 6 days left? 7 days?
Back it on the 4th if you're going to be celebrating Cinco de Mayo, because you drunk bastards are going to forget.
Exactly.
I forgot it was Cinco de Mayo on the 5th.
I didn't until he said it. I hadn't even thought about it. We were joined by Boston Metaphysical Society creator and writer Madden Holly Rosling. This is a very cool alternate history of kind of, is it the late 1800s, Will?
Yeah, I think so.
Victorian.
Yeah, a little bit of steampunk feel to it too. Yeah, it's a really good
steampunk. It's as if ghosts were I don't know if ghosts are real or not, but ghosts are really out and in your face, ghosts, demons, and there are three people who band together to kind of corral these ghosts. And there's also a team of other people who include Tesla, Edison, Harry Houdini.
Arthur Conan Doyle in there?
Can't remember.
I
He
don't
was
think
big in that scene. I've just been listening to some podcasts about that. So.
I don't think Doyle is, but I think they're mostly American. But I don't remember Doyle. But it's a very cool, interesting. Is it historical fiction if you create ghosts? I don't know, but it's awesome and well worth checking out. And Madeline, like we brought up Russell Nolte and we brought up Tyler James. I would put Madeline as the third prong of the creators who give back to other creators by kind of delving into how they kickstarted and how you can. So those 3 creators also give back to the community an immense amount. So. If nothing else, support it to support her.
I'm definitely gonna look at that one.
Oh gosh, what is this Onishi Press Tracy Queen? Is that it?
That's it.
Wow.
We also have a much easier link. It's just kickstarter.oneshipress.com. And it just makes it simpler for people to remember and type in, like, if anyone's out there watching and you're like, what? Yeah. I got to type in Tracy Queen Queen -1-3 is that an I or what? No, it's an I.
And Oneshi Press, if you're listening to this, is spelled ONESHI Press. And if you can't spell press, get an editor, and
Oh, I need an
you'll
editor.
find it. So yeah, that's usually we have probably 6 or 7 of these. 3 or 4 I think we can do. Well, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that was.
Will, I
great.
love your shirt, by the way. I want to
Oh,
say
thank
that before the show ends. If I wasn't wearing my I work for Neil fucking Adams shirt, I'd probably be wearing my Triforce shirt. So
Gotta love Zelda.
Oh, Joey Galvez reminded us it's Star Wars Day as well.
May the
It's,
4th.
May the 4th, the day before. Yes. So and May the 4th be with you all, and I guess we'll see you after that, right?
I think so.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody. I if you guys want to come back and do a post-mortem, but I think probably after your campaign you'll want to sleep, and I understand.
man, we're going right from this campaign to our next one. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, you guys got a really nice shout out. Connor Hughes said you guys were great when he was on here. So when
Connor's awesome.
Yeah.
We love Connor.
Yeah,
I watch Connor's Twitch whenever I can, and it's just always like such a wonderful art history. Like we just talk about all these like stylistic and creative influences and ideas. Like he's just great. He's a fountain of knowledge, and he's so chill and giving and nice with it.
Yeah. And sort of talented, I guess.
Right?
Shani, thank you for making our Friday nights fun. You guys being here and watching it makes it worth. Well, we get to talk to other creators who are comics, so that's our cake. You guys are a second cake, and then when we get the comics in the mail in 2 months to 6 months, whatever, that's the icing. But really appreciate it. And you guys have a great Star Wars day, and Cinco de Mayo. And we'll see you next week.
That's right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
for having
everyone.
us.
Absolutely. Bye.